Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something literally millions of years in the making. We are going to explore a truly incredible century-long quest. It's this fascinating journey to find a natural performance space with absolutely perfect acoustics. We're going to see how an ancient geological wonder totally transformed into a world-renowned stage, completely defying centuries of established architectural tradition along the way.
So I want you to think about this for a sec. Was the greatest opera house built by human hands or by the Earth itself? It's a pretty compelling thought, right? To really answer it, we have to unpack the remarkable story of Colorado's Red Rocks Amphitheater. And trust me, this isn't just a story about some popular concert venue. It's this amazing convergence of deep geology, rugged Western history, and evolving human culture, all coming together to create a literal acoustic marvel.
Okay, let's dive into this by taking a trip back in time. Section 1. From stone to the sky, the evolution of Western performance venues.
Picture this. It's the late 19th century, the American West is booming, and you've got these Welsh gold miners settling out in Colorado. Well, they really missed the culture of their homeland, so they started building these indoor jewel-box theaters out of stone, like the Central City Opera House, basically trying to drag European-style classical music into the rugged mining towns of the frontier. But a cultural tension started to bubble up. On one hand, you had these indoor stone theaters rigidly sticking to confined European traditions, and on the other, the American West itself, defined by its massive, vast open landscapes. Over time, classical artists and audiences started to feel, kind of boxed in by those stuffy indoor confines. They'd look out at the sprawling Colorado landscape and start wondering, could nature itself serve as a grand stage? Could the open sky actually rival the absolute finest opera houses in Europe?
That burning question brings us right to our next chapter, Section 2, the 1911 Acoustic Revolution, a pivot in musical history.
So the answer to whether nature could rival human architecture finally arrived in May of 1911. The world-famous opera soprano Mary Garden traveled out to the site of what we now know as Red Rocks. She stood on this super simple, incredibly basic wooden platform tucked right between these raw, towering sandstone monoliths, and she just sang right into the open air, no microphones, no artificial sound enhancement, nothing. Just her voice and the ancient landscape. And the reaction? Absolute astonishment. People were literally floored by the unparalleled clarity, the warmth, the depth of her voice. Garden, who had performed in literally the most prestigious venues in Europe, gave her official professional verdict. She declared the site acoustically superior to any grand opera house in Europe. No way, right? But that single performance proved the location's sonic brilliance and totally validated this growing vision that the Earth had crafted a perfect instrument.
Which leads us to Section 3, a giant ancient instrument, the science of sound and stone.
Now, what's really interesting here is the science behind why Mary Garden's voice sounded so unbelievable. We've covered the history, sure, but let's talk about the geological magic that caused this acoustic miracle. Well, actually, scratch that. It wasn't magic at all. It was pure geology. The venue sits right inside what geologists call the Fountain Formation. It's this layer of ancient sandstone where the natural contours and massive monoliths essentially act as a giant acoustic instrument. For millennia, natural forces just slowly carved and shaped these massive stone structures, and the highly specific contours of that raw rock, they naturally amplify and enrich sound. It creates that deep warmth and clarity without a single wire or speaker.
And to really put that into perspective, just look at this number, 300 million. That's a 3 with 8 zeros. That is how old the sandstone of the Fountain Formation actually is, 300 million years. Meaning, the Earth was slowly, meticulously crafting this perfect, giant acoustic instrument eons before humans even existed, let alone before we ever thought about laying bricks for a traditional opera house.
So the Earth built the instrument, and Mary Garden proved it worked. But how on earth do you turn a raw landscape into a functional venue for thousands of people? Section 4, Sculpting Around Nature, the 1930s construction. Okay, so jump forward to the 1930s. The Civilian Conservation Corps, the CCC, gets handed this incredibly daunting task: build a permanent amphitheater at Red Rocks. But whatever you do, don't ruin the acoustic magic that made it special in the first place. And they handled this with such immense respect for the landscape. Step 1, instead of just bulldozing the area to build from scratch, they chose to deeply integrate the human architecture with the ancient rock. Step 2, they carefully designed all the pathways and seating to wrap entirely around the existing monoliths rather than moving them. And step 3, they strictly prioritized natural sound quality over traditional construction methods. They wanted to make sure it was accessible and comfortable, but without altering those massive stone structures one bit.
So, the crucial point is really about respecting the Earth's original craftsmanship. By making the hard choice not to just blast away the rock, the CCC successfully prevented the displacement of nature. And that thoughtful, incredibly careful strategy is the exact reason why, to this very day, the acoustic clarity of the space remains completely intact. It's still exactly what Mary Garden experienced back in 1911.
And that brings us to our final stretch, Section 5, Earth's Perfect Masterpiece, Art, Nature, and Philosophy.
You know, the story of rocks isn't just about rocks and music, it actually offers some pretty profound philosophical takeaways. Let's move to the timeline and see how this all builds. 300 million years ago, the Fountain Formation is carved by the Earth. Then, jump to the 1870s, and humans are trying to forcefully transplant European indoor stone theaters onto the wild Western landscape. 1911 hits, and Mary Garden discovers the vastly superior acoustic revelation of the open air. And finally, in the 1930s, the CCC achieves harmony by carefully integrating seating straight into the sandstone. This timeline tracks a massive evolution, right? From ignoring nature to discovering its power and finally to deeply respecting it.
Looking at this incredible evolution, creative philosopher and thinker Franco Arteseros developed this theory he calls organic artistry. Arteseros argues that nature acts as the supreme architect, and honestly, it often totally surpasses human expectations. He completely challenges the old-school belief that high art demands these elaborate, man-made indoor settings modeled on established European norms. Instead, he argues that when we step into spaces crafted by the Earth, sound, space, and story connect in this totally unique way. It's a connection that a purely man-made venue can simply never replicate.
And this brilliantly illustrates the absolute core of his philosophy. Red Rocks is, in Arteseros' own words, a harmonious blend of nature and art. It stands as this monumental testament to the fact that human design is at its absolute best, not when it tries to conquer the landscape, but when it respects and utilizes the natural wonders the Earth has already perfected for us. Arteseros' broader creative philosophy isn't really just about concert venues, though. It's about finding the extraordinary hidden right inside the ordinary. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Where else can you find extraordinary natural masterpieces in your own daily life? I mean, if a pile of 300-million-year-old sandstone can literally outperform the grandest opera houses of Europe, what other unseen masterpieces of organic artistry are just sitting right outside your door waiting to be discovered with a fresh perspective? Keep your eyes and your ears wide open. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.